gonna practice my reading, woman. I'm gonna come down from the mountain, gonna get me a library card. Cause I'm a mountain man, I'm a mountain man, I'm a mountain man, Lord knows that I am. I'm a mountain man, I'm a mountain man, I'm a mountain man, Lord knows I am. Gonna come down from the mountain, gonna beat you at Scrabble, woman. Gonna come down from the mountain, gonna read the dictionary. Cause I'm a mountain man, I'm a mountain man, I'm a mountain man, Lord knows that I am. I'm a mountain man, I'm a mountain, I'm a man, I'm a mountain man, Lord knows I am.
All right, guys, welcome to the Northern Footy Show. Thanks for joining us. As usual, I'm joined by my co-host, Bonners, who I make look better every single week.
You do a great job. I do appreciate
it. I do take a little bit more attention to the hair that's left, but more importantly, it's not about us for once, Bonners. It's about our two very special guests tonight. I'll take this opportunity to welcome both Sue Stanley and Shaun Smith to the show. Thanks for coming on, guys.
Sid.
Pleasure.
I'm going to give you a bit of a backstory to how we got to this point today. A couple of weeks ago, through a little business transaction, I ran into Shaun and met him, probably not realising who he was, and we got talking, and you know, we somehow got onto concussion. I think it was relevant to a footy discussion, and I got to be honest, I was a bit touched by the conversation, and went back and sort of did a little bit of study based around it, or not study, investigation into it, spoke to Bonners about it, and it sort of blew my mind, never having had a concussion, that, you know, how real a thing it is. And by the grace of God, again, I'm listening to the podcast, which I listened to Sue's podcast, who's
Not
on
my
podcast.
podcast.
Let's be honest. It is your podcast. We have a few other people that come into it, but on your podcast, you were talking about concussion, and I had to go and get some more gear off Shaun a couple of days later, and I said to Shaun, I was listening to Sue on the podcast last night, and she was talking about everything, and I wanted to just, you know, take this opportunity to see if I could get Sue on the show. And are you willing to come on the show? And you said yes. And I got to be honest, at nearly 50 in a couple of weeks and having never had a concussion, it's something I've got to be honest, I'd never paid attention to.
Yep.
And after meeting Shaun only 3 or 4 weeks ago, listening to the You Can't Be Serious podcast with Sue talking about it and your iBox, I started to get onto you know, the internet, and I've got to tell you, I'm blown away with the amount of problems. And I've done plenty of research on you, Shaun, which is then, if you type in AFL player, you know, the pages and the pages and the pages come up. So thanks for coming on and talking about what is maybe a taboo conversation in some respects. And
it's got to be a conversation. I think everything starts with a conversation, and the more we talk about it, more get the information out there. I think it's better for everyone involved. We can get more information. You know, we bring people in who've got a great background in that area. So I think it has to start as a conversation, and, you know, from the lower levels all the way through, it's an important factor.
So tell me, before we started the show tonight, you did a eye test with Shaun, and on your iBox, which you've invested personally in to bring in to the country. How did he go?
Well, there's so many things, and there's so many moving blocks to concussion, and that's where it's all new. Everyone's still learning about it, and education and conversations is great, But I've been around this space for the last 5 years, pumping the iBox, and everyone's still talking about it, but nothing's being done. So I think they've got to start doing something.
Yep.
What it is it may be the right thing, may not be the right thing to do. So, but it has to start somewhere. And if we're not going to start, then I've got an iBox here which gives you concussion, yes or no. It's developed over in the US. FDA approved, TGA approved.
And that's a big
massive
Big
over
things,
there,
it
yeah.
is. And, you know, it is an expensive machine, but then everything starts off as expensive. And then obviously as technology comes forward, it comes down a bit from there. So basically when someone does get concussed, then this will actually, it's non-invasive. But where I think this really, really sits, because there are doctors now that are diagnosing concussions and they're the experts, let's face it. So after that, then what is their score? And if they get a score, if they're not concussed or they're subconcussed or just underneath, but what level? There's no validation of scoring of what level of concussion there was. Then when does that person return to play? And that's more the interesting part,
This is the
because
hot topic.
exactly, because it's the secondary concussion on the concussion that hasn't had the right rest or rehabilitation or anything like that. So that needs to be something, and we all heal differently.
Yeah.
Like you'd heal quicker than maybe you, and I'd be with you. We're all different. So it gives you a score, and each week, because it's not invasive, it's just sitting there, which is 3-minute eye test, does the eye
I
tracking
think I was
around.
more entertained by the
exactly.
test than Sean.
Some great music coming out of that thing, I tell you.
It was just, well, America's Got Talent or something like that. I was wondering if he was going to break out in songs.
He did pick up the guitar afterwards.
I had to concentrate.
And I've had a boxer who did get concussed, and then it was over. I think he returned to play back to what we did. We didn't have a baseline, but where we thought he would be a good baseline, it was about 6 to 7 weeks that it really was, and you could see the score coming down. And to me, that was exciting, because I could actually see something, or the rest of his brain. Exactly. And then, but if you've only allowed, what are we, 3 weeks now? You guys get for concussion 2 or 3 weeks now.
21 days.
15, no, 14 days. 14 days.
14 days.
In April, I was 14. 21
So
local footy.
have you been healed or not?
Yeah.
How do
Effectively
you
one
know?
game.
Yeah, exactly.
And I guess this is what led to this discussion. When I heard you speak on the podcast, and I've made a note here, it's episode 255 called The Doc, the iBox, and Hot F. I'm not sure what the Hot F means, but I listened to it, and you jumped in, Sue, and made this great statement on the show on May 8th. Look it up, listen to it, and the one after where they spoke to Joe Maguire, who's playing in the NFL overseas, or he's playing for Ohio on his way there. But Sean, how did a double-ended question for you? How has it affected you in your life, these concussions? I know we spoke earlier, there's been quite a number of concussions over your football career. And what information was available to you when you started footy? And it's a loaded question, because Sue, then I'm going to come back to you. What should be made available the minute you're drafted or the minute you're playing senior football? So how's it affected you on your journey, Sean?
Well, it affected me greatly. I remember my mum saying to me probably 8 or 9 years ago that you're not the same person you used to be. I know we change as you get older, but I was a very angry man. And
did you know why? Or
no, I just
out
saw
of
it was
nowhere?
just a part of getting old.
Yeah, that's what he
or
does.
you just don't. Yeah, you're a good
Yeah,
example.
just gets angry. Yeah.
But and you know, I'm very confident it cost me my marriage, and you know, even a relationship with my kids there for a little bit. I just had these really crazy thoughts, you know, they didn't love me anymore and all this sort of thing. And you know, I ended up spending 3 months in the Melbourne clinic, in a mental institution, which probably, it sounds really bad, but it was probably one of the best things I ever did, because it got me just to get away from the world and finally work out actually what was going on. And through Peter Jess as well, doing tests with me, and he's obviously very big on the testing, the concussion advocate. And we've done tests, and there is damage. We identify there is damage with your brain, but it's once I come out of hospital, I was on an absolute barrage of drugs, which made you feel better. But I felt terrible inside my body. I just felt toxic. So in the last 5 years or 4.5 years, I've really worked on just making my body try and heal itself.
and I spoke to Sue about it, obviously just through your thyroid and getting vitamin B into your brain and amongst lots of other things. And it actually has made a massive difference. Seeing guys like Brett Jaros, he does very similar stuff with the eye work.
Yeah.
And when I went to first see him, I was a bit of a train wreck. It was, the eyes were all over the place. And I did a test with Sue just earlier, and it came up reasonably well. And I thought, well, that's a good sign. That proves if you do have damage, you can live with it and manage it. Yeah, I might be going downhill, but I'm not going like this. I might be going, on a very, very slow decline. But I still reckon I've made myself better in the last 4 years.
What was made available to you when you started your career? What was the discussion around concussion in the 80s or the 90s?
Well, we used to do cognitive tests, remember, and the speed test and all that stuff you could fudge pretty easy. Not that I ever did, because I just wanted to be best at what I did. But Paddy McCartan's admitted that he's actually he's dumbed his baseline down, so he doesn't look, he can go back and play.
Did that with a beat test.
The thing is, with when it came to concussion, I knew you could get concussed or you can get a broken arm, but I was under the impression that we just heal and you'd move on.
Yeah.
And I played footy till I was, 40, which when I know now was a massive mistake. In that time, I didn't get a lot of concussions over that my time outside of the AFL, VFL. But obviously I know now that was a mistake. And, there's games I've seen where you get knocked out before half time, get carried off on a stretcher, and you come back on after half time. Just crazy stuff. And then play the next week and not miss a game.
Has the association been following your journey? Because the rehab actually, you do a sprain or you do an ACL or you do a joint, whatever, the rehabilitation on that is so known. But in concussion, it's not. But your journey is really unknown territory.
Oh, it is. You can say I've got this concussion, that concussion, but how bad was it? All this, you can grade a medial tear, and we know that will grow back at a certain rate, whereas the brain is so unknown. I know Peter Jess has been looking for, vying for a concussion passport for kids. So at least we know their history. It's basically medical history of your brain. Because one thing about your joints, you can replace your knees, you can repair, all that sort of thing. You can't replace your brain, and your brain runs everything. And it is who you are. It's your personality. It's why you're different to everyone else. And it creates it controls your impulses and everything. And when it's not working well, it's not a good place to be.
No.
It's interesting too, because it feels like the past generations have created the changes of the modern era, if that makes sense. So all the things that we've seen in the past, we're only now getting an understanding, like yourself, of the cognitive changes, the long-term effects, the CTE that we're seeing with all these people of high impact sports. And even, as we're saying with you with gymnastics, it's that repeated concussions that are causing these problems. Do you have any contact with other people that are in a similar boat to you? Do you hear of anyone having similar results or people having problems because of it in the past?
I know quite a lot of guys who are struggling.
Yeah.
To the point where we actually fear for their safety because they're in such a bad place. Which is, it's already happened to 2 AFL players in the last 5, 6 years, 7, 8 years.
Yeah.
Look at someone like a Shane Tuckey, had a stage 4 CTE, chronic stage 4. So he had a 90-year-old dementia patient. He was 38. His life must have just been absolute hell. Now, if you can't help the son of one of the biggest legends in the game, I'm not sure why they've fought. Basically, they had the inquiry, and they've basically saying it's not their fault. We'll learn from it, move on, and everyone who's before that is sort of bad luck. We just go, what?
That's going to kill you, Sue, to hear that. I've heard you speak on this passionately.
You just got to do something.
Something.
It is.
It's better than nothing.
And if you start something, and there may be something that's going to be better around the corner. I know there's also mouth guards they're putting in, and they actually can monitor the knock of the intensity of it, stuff like that too.
Good, yeah.
So there's going to be multiple things that are coming out. Just get something, whether it's a baseline, whether this one here is just for secondary to return to play. It's a start. Get a baseline. I know the boxing industry is looking at doing it as an annual test every year to actually get it done. So therefore, it's not going to be. We're not going to know the research of what is going to be done until it's probably 10 years down the track, because you've got to go through a boxer's career.
Yeah.
Yes.
But where do you start? And you've got to start now.
Start today.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
We
Well,
heard,
the way I look at it is that, you know, you do fitness testing. So
Mhm.
you do your first run, and that's your baseline, I suppose. And
Yep.
then
How
you
high
get-
you can jump, how fast you can run.
Correct. So we do all that, but we don't do it for our brain. It's just mind-boggling. That,
Well, I heard on the podcast show the other day, on the podcast after this, when Joe Maguire, Eddie Maguire's son, is
Yep.
over at Ohio State, and he said to you, Sue, that they did a baseline test, and they have psychologists and physiologists and chiropractors there. They have everything there. Obviously, I mean, it's a different world over there, but it's not a different game. And they're
No.
padded up like no
Impacts are the
tomorrow.
same.
Like, we don't even have that padding. It is, in my opinion, the toughest game in the world.
the thing is too is that what the difference between the NFL and the AFL is that the NFL, the players have stood up and they've taken them to court, and they've fought tooth and nail against the players that no, there's nothing to see here, and they've come up with compensation,
$1.5 billion.
$1.5 billion. So yes, they now go, well, it took that for them to finally turn around. So it looks like the AFL are doing exactly the same thing. We'll just fight tooth and nail until we sort of have to give in, which is not good, because you know there's young men already broken in the game already.
Someone had to retire over Christmas. He was drafted last year.
Well, the Western
Yes.
Bulldogs, a
That's right.
young kid
That's
who
what I
just
just said. Yeah,
retired in the last two.
he was drafted last year or the year before. And
Yeah.
he had
Hadn't
one
even
big
played a
season.
game or
Hadn't
something
played
like
a
that.
game.
You got Liam Picken as well.
Yep.
You got Tom Liberatore, who's in doubt. You know, and there's another one. He's had 2, maybe 3 concussions in 3-4 weeks,
Short period of time.
and they're talking about return to play in about 3-4 weeks. That's crazy.
But is
Yeah.
that's
That's
kind
crazy.
of what that
Talk to
type
me.
of thing for yourself? Like with the box like that, you could actually monitor what the changes would over
Correct.
time
Absolutely.
to actually see whether it's dropped down, to see them at a place where there's I guess not a full reliability, but an understanding that if the score is low enough that you can sit there and you can be confidently feeling, they can go in confidently feeling based upon an actual objective, proper objective rather than subjective.
And when you've got a score and you can see something coming down, it's the rehab that they're also going to learn from, and it's what you're saying in the balance points and the training of the eyes that you can do, which is going to help that player come back to play. But once you start seeing something happening, if it's coming down and you're doing it right things and you're helping the rehab of it, it's got to be good for the sport, good for athletes.
You talk about a passport. If your son and or daughter, or in your case, Bonners, your daughter is going to start playing footy, at 14 or 15, let's say. If part of your registration fee was to go and get the iBox test done, and it was $50 and part of your registration, so you knew her baseline for her career. For me, this is a bit of a no-brainer. You made the point before, if you roll your ankle, you come off and you get ice. The first thing they do is ice your ankle. But if you get a concussion, you sit there.
Sit there and do nothing.
So is it an education thing? How do we get this out there? Or is it we don't want to know about anything?
Well, I think where the AFL, they're doing everything they can to protect their head. And there are accidents in sport. There's accidents in, I'm not putting netball down on it, but it's a lot lower contact than footy. When you touch a ball in netball, you get a thing called contact. So that's why you get protected. But if you get an elbow or you fall over and smash your head on the court, you're going to get a concussion. So we've got to realise when two humans go against each other in mission, and where we're falling down is how we're treating it. And that's whereas AFL have got their focus on preventing it.
Yeah.
Now we can't prevent it in our game unless you play completely no contact sport. Even then, you're still going to get it because you're going to get accidents.
Yeah.
So we have to understand that we are going
Part
to
of
get
it.
concussions and we can make it safe as possible. And I think they've done a pretty good job. They've sort of made it a bit complicated in a
Yep.
few things, and which upsets a lot of fans. But where they're falling down is 14-day return of play. It should be 28 days plus.
But would you
Right.
put a time on it though? Would you just put like Sue was talking about with symptoms? I mean, I don't like a date put on something because it's an assumption that in 4 weeks someone will be fine.
Yeah.
But it's only until people get 2 or 3 concussions we actually sit there and go, you're gonna have to have a baseline for some sort. And this is what the the iBox
Yep.
does. There's got to be some type of baseline because, as you said, I don't always think it's about prevention. It's when the person comes back because it's those multiple concussions over time, and it might be over 5, 10, 15 years. And as we've all said, that everyone recovers differently.
Yeah.
So there's got to be some way, and not putting a date on it, but putting a symptomatology. I know people go to doctors, but some will just say, have you got a headache? No, I've been okay. As soon as they get the clearance, then they'll go and exercise again. Suddenly the exertional part will create the migraines again, and then they're back, but they're thinking, oh, I just haven't run for a while because I'm actually going to go back and do it.
Well, just on that, like exercise is actually a good thing up until the
But I mean,
point.
like recovery type, like from
Yeah,
a concussion.
Yeah, that's one good thing about people just rest and they do nothing. Whereas if you can get out and do something up until you start, just before you start feeling crook, that's good recovery.
Yeah, exactly.
But everyone just thinks you have to rest and just do nothing and do nothing, and it makes a lot worse.
I mean, AFL have got the rules of the game. They're there for a game, and the game is contact sport. I mean, that's what everyone loves. The fans love it. I think it's really the medical side of things that have got to stand up for the athletes, and athletes got to take control of their own health as well to say, okay, I need to be tested, or if the doctors are going to say you need 6 weeks, then you've got to take 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And we know every athlete wants to get out there and kick the ball and play a game and win, but if they're not ready for it, there should be a ruling in there that they can't.
Yeah.
Well, I've used an analogy with you before, Darren. Is if you did your knee, you had a Rico, it's 12 months.
Yep.
Pretty much. You might squeeze out 10 and a half, 11. Some freaks, will heal quickly, whatever. But generally, about the 8-month mark, he's feeling okay. So 7 or 8 months, you think, oh, I might play because I'm feeling okay. You come out. And the very first contest, you go to turn, snap. There would be a lawsuit. There would be front page news. There would be just the doctors would be sued. It'd be horrible.
Yeah.
Whereas we're sending players. It's not a concussion. Let's face it. It's a brain injury.
Yeah.
Back out on the ground. And untreated.
It sounds so much more serious, doesn't it, when you say it's a brain injury out on the field?
You can't see it. You look okay. And you're fine. You can run. The only reason why you can't play with a Rico is because
you can't walk on it.
You can't physically run. You can't run with a brain.
Wouldn't have affected my footy career. I didn't move. Bonners.
Yeah, I was listening actually to something from Daniel Harford on the way, and it's as you were talking back with the contact sport. But what we're finding now is, especially for the women's sport, there's actually a lot of that cross sport. So when we grew up playing footy, we learned how to protect ourselves. We learned that you don't go head first into a game. You've got the girls now finally got that ability to actually show themselves physically. That listening to Daniel Harford, you're saying that some of them are going a little bit reckless at the moment. So you're finding that, and it will evolve over time. Every football and every sport does. But when you are bringing people from another code, and we're having it in local footy as well, we're trying to get the netballers and stuff like that. It is that susceptibility. So part of it is, as you said, back on the athlete to say, well, we've got to teach these guys how to actually go into a contest for the prevention. And then when they do have it, understand that when they do have a headache for 3-4 weeks, then really, as soon as the headache finishes, it should be another 3 weeks before you come back. So it's all that education based upon your the tactical way of doing things, coming from another sport, knowing that you don't go head first, but also understanding with that, because a lot of these basketballers wouldn't have had many concussions. A lot of the netballs, as you said, wouldn't have had them. They're coming into a contested type show now to understand not only the implications of going in this hard, but once you do have these problems, how to actually take your time to come back. And I think that's more a preventative measure from the lower forms. We talked about AFL and higher levels, but we've also got these younger kids that either parents are either petrified to let them go back on the ground, or they're sending them back because their dad goes, "No, they're fine. They, have a bit of a head knock, but he got up, he finished the game." Well, should he have actually finished the game? This is a discussion.
Here's 3 opinions for you. Give me 3 different opinions. I've just taken over as the chief of the AFL, so God help them. They'll be broke pretty quick.
Yep.
But I'm appointing you 3 to deal with the concussion issue. Tell me something you're going to change immediately.
I'm buying such thing.
You're buying. To me, that's not even comical, because if they don't have something like that at every club,
it is.
we have a defibrillator. Why isn't there an eye box at every club?
100%.
Subjective. It's an objective
It's not
view.
hard. It's just it's basically it's just a test for the.
Do you have the
test that you
master
can't
resale rights to this soon? I can get a cut off this if you like. But why don't we? If we have defibrillators and we have ice and we have all these things for these injuries, why aren't we measuring it as a club? I know you spoke about the NFL, sorry, I was in trouble for that. The NFL over in America are now they've bought these eye boxes, haven't they?
They've invested in it.
They've
Yeah,
invested in it.
Green Bay Packers have put money into it because they obviously believe it. They test all their athletes and things. So
Amazing.
it's getting out there. It's just education. It's just time. But when is it time to say stop and do something about it? But
So you're doing that. You're
It's objective,
buying.
because I'm a believer in. I'm in a scientific kind of a profession. I'm a chiropractor. Everything is based upon research, and it's based upon objective and subjective. Subjective, when it comes to the brain, is a lot harder to monitor than an objective view.
Yeah.
So if you can objectively give a score and follow it all the way through to show progress, to me, it's something
Or
that's
deterioration.
Deterioration. So you're trying to do something that actually gives a picture, and it will give you, like we see, every time you did it, you'd see a graph, and you'd see a downturn, you'd see an upturn, or you'd see a consistent.
Yeah.
So for me, it's anything objective is always going to be of better value than someone saying. I think I had the analogy with you. You put someone who's got concussion and sees 10 different doctors. 7 say he can't play, 3 say he can. So does he play or not play? Because you've got that intra-examiner reliability that we have a trouble with. If you've got someone who just presses a button and the same thing happens for every single person, it's hard not to look past.
it's not going to save the problems of the world.
No,
because
it's
it's
the slug,
absolutely
isn't it?
How did you find doing it?
And then it's the
It's
regular.
good, yeah. I mean, it's you
It
just
took like 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
Yeah.
It's not hard at all.
So what do you change, Shaun? You're now the CEO of Concussion Reform. What are you changing? What's the first thing you want to?
I would change the return to play protocols. Look at them greatly, because that's one that's really causing damage.
Yep.
I'm definitely not on the AFL
Yeah,
Christmas list.
Right. Okay. Well, I mean, sometimes I think the hardest pills to swallow is the ones of the past, and if it seems like you're highly qualified at it, so anyway, if you get a job, just don't forget to cut me back in on it. I'm going to make some money tonight. So, what are you changing? And I know you've got the eye box, but that's already been taken by box.
I'd like the some baseline tests and the return to play. I think because who have been concussed, and I've seen them come down at different levels, at different speeds. I haven't been involved in the rehab side of it. That's an interesting part as well, which is what you're saying at the training of the eyes and everything. But if you've got something that validates it, that gives you a score, and you can see it coming down, whatever they're doing, it's obviously working. And it's going to be the safest thing for the athlete to return to play and be safe enough for the athlete to do it.
So I'm going to run a poll over the next couple of days on our Facebook page, and it is
Can you get it right this time?
No, my spelling's terrible.
It's horrendous.
But I'm going to run a poll, and I'm interested how many people would use an eye box. If we bought an eye box and put it in here and had a trained professional who knows how to use it to test it, I want to know what percentage of people would use it. Say they're $100,000 each. I don't think it'd be that hard to get a community behind $100,000 for something like this at all. You know,
It's council rates we pay them.
Council rates, yeah.
Change.
But I actually wonder, now that we're getting awareness around it, you see a lot of people go and play local footy suit, and they don't want to give up the money the next week, so they say I'm okay, or they don't want to lose their spot. And we've all been there at junior level, you don't want to lose your spot. You're all right, mate. Oh, I'm flying.
I
You
get
know?
that.
And-
On cloud nine.
yeah, I'm on cloud nine. But what if the club had a situation and say, look, I need you to go down and see Dr. Sue Stanley, sit on her eye test and let's get it done, because you can't come back until you get under the baseline that Sue took with you when you started your career, or a safe baseline. Isn't that the ultimate solution? Isn't it that simple? Or am
You would
I-
think so, yeah. And it takes the pressure off the coach as well.
Yeah, everyone.
And because the coach also too might be pushing the play, so they go, oh, well, he's not right.
Well, what education is there for the coaches when they go and get their coaching level 1, 2, and 3? I'd love to know what percentage of the training. I've done my level 1 and level 2 coaching. I was a terrible coach. I should have done level 3, but no one spoke to me about concussion.
Yeah.
It was a while ago. Like, to be fair,
I think because people see that as a medical issue.
Yeah.
But it is, as a coach, you have to. I know it's obviously you want to try and win games. Don't get me wrong. It's it's obviously with someone's life at stake. The game's not worth that at any level, really.
yeah, we're going to come back to this topic, but before we do, one thing we do on the Footy Show is we select the winner and the losers next week. We have qualified people and coaches
exactly.
and players that come in every week to get
And
it
they're
wrong every
horrendous.
week. So you can take the wildest
take
stab
it-
in the
yeah.
dark, and you're going to be more
So
successful.
go with the name.
Sure.
That's the best way you actually pick a horse.
We're going to start
There
in
we go.
we're going to start in Division 3, where concussions are probably a bit more frequent. So you've got Old Paradians versus Epping this week. I need a score and a winner.
Epping by 10.
I'm going to write this down.
Yep.
Sue, Epping by 10.
Yeah, I'll go Epping by 25.
Epping 25. Bonners.
Yeah, we had Harrow in last week. If I don't go with Benny Turner, I think I'll get killed.
So you're
I
going
think
Old
about 30
Paradians?
points, 30 points. Yeah.
Old Paradians
Is
30.
it at Epping or-
It's at Old Paradians, and I'm also going to go OPs, and I'm going to go 25 points. So, but
He
means
follows me all
nothing.
the time. Seriously, he
nothing.
just copies me every single day.
Old Eltham Collegians and Heidelberg West this week at Old Eltham. I'm going to give you a bit of a hint here. Old Collegians are top of the ladder and undefeated. Heidelberg
I
West,
reckon it might be
think,
Old
is 1, 2.
Collegians by 30. I reckon.
Oh, good choice, Sean. Old
Old Collegians by 45.
Old Collegians 45.
Yeah, I'm going to say. I think it's about the same, about 45. I reckon.
45. I'm going to jump on board with this, and I'm going to go.
Oh, careful. Remember, every time you go against
I know.
Heidelberg West, you get
Heidelberg West,
abusive
they
game.
abuse me. So pull your finger out your ass, Heidelberg West. I'm going 90 points, Old Collegians. So don't get up me. If you don't win a game for the next 3 weeks, pull your head in. Kilmore versus Mernda. This is a tough one now. Mernda were flag favourites before the start of the season, but they have dropped a couple. But they also had a heap of injuries. They traded a guy to Kilmore, Josh Coe. So at Kilmore, which is halfway to Sydney, what do we got? What do we got?
Oh, Kilmore by 5.
Kilmore by 5.
Say.
Are we going Kilmore by? Are you saying Kilmore by 5, Sue?
I'll go 10. I can't do the same.
What do you got?
It's hard to think because I remember we picked Old Paradians to go down to Kilmore and do the job, but they didn't. So I still recommend we'll win by about 6 points. So.
Has your wife not spoken to you much this week? Because you've got a lot to say tonight. You don't generally say
I
much.
live with 4 women.
45
What do I
minute
get to
show.
say? I've got 3 daughters. I don't think I've spoken in. Did you speak to your wife? I didn't want to interrupt her.
So I got remarried, so I can start the conversation again. I'm going to go Mernda by 36 points. I think Fletch and Kingy will be great, and they've got quite a few coming back as well this week, which is great. King Lake at Reservoir, that's the other half on the way to the ladder.
Oh,
Go for an upset.
King
too.
Lake should be nice and fresh up there. I reckon, on the
Won't
weekend.
be fresh.
It's only 3/4, isn't it? The fog kicks in.
That's it. So King Lake, Sean's got by how many, Sean?
I reckon 7, 8.
7, 8. That's
Better than time we had 4,000.
23.
23. King Lake. And what do you got, Bonners?
I'm going to do it.
Just give me an answer.
Go King Lake by 3,210.
3,210. I reckon you went a bit light, but I am going to go King Lake by 97. And I think Reservoir, that's a bit of a trouble. And the last one here, Laylaw's got the bye. The Whitnall boys are probably going away on a drinking weekend. Shane Whitnall actually played footy on the weekend, Supers. I've seen him kitted up. Might have needed a bigger jumper. But, he went out and played on the weekend. He'll punch and live in day. I'll tell you for that. He's such a nice guy.
And I'll hold you.
You'll hold me. Fitzroy Stars versus Ivanhoe. This is, I couldn't split them.
I haven't
at
heard.
Fitzroy.
Fitzroy Stars.
Yeah, Fitzroy by 23.
Awesome Stars.
It's
And that's
a,
right too.
it's a cracking side, the Fitzroy Stars. So I'm not going against Jacko. So 32.
32
By 13.
by 13. I'm going the draw. I tip a draw a week. All right. Now, before we get to Division 2 and Division 1, Sue, what are you doing with yourself now? You've had an amazing career. What do you do with yourself now other than keep the podcast in check? You are the boss of the podcast. Do you know,
That is something you cannot do, trust me.
I don't know how you keep that serious. And we spoke before how you don't laugh when Dougie laughs. It makes me crazy. Sam just picks on everybody, and but you keep everyone in check. You are totally in control of it. What else do you do other than the You Can't Be Serious podcast?
Well, on the podcast, we're hoping to go live as well. So, unfortunately, I'm upskilling very quickly on the audio, the visual, and that. So, learning that. But heading up to Queensland on the weekend.
Awesome.
By boat.
Great.
Have a 3-month holiday there.
Oh wow.
Tough life, isn't it?
So I might come back if we don't crack we don't stack the boat or put it on the rocks. Or
That
What
rocking
a
it.
great little trip that is.
Yeah.
I know.
Good on you.
Never done that before.
Well, we've got
First
to
for
do it.
everything.
We've got to do it. And Sean, what are you doing with yourself?
Oh, well, I've got myself a workshop.
Yep.
Obviously,
I've been in, had a look.
come in, grab some timber off me. No, it's more for obviously I sell a bit here and there, but it's not about that. It's more for just the neuroplasticity for the brain and learn something new and look at some of the stuff I made 4 or 5 years ago. I'm sort of looking better.
I've seen a beautiful coffee table of yours in your shop the other day. It was amazing.
Yeah.
Really good.
There's a $50. Thanks.
Thanks,
for
mate.
telling me.
Don't worry about it.
So that's myself. So I've sort of working. I'm sort of a bit hit and miss with it. Just certain days you just don't feel quite right, so you sort of have to sort of just back it off a bit.
Yep.
But that's me at the moment.
Yeah. And
Is it usually after the days he comes in, you feel a bit crook?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah,
Have to lay down for a
does
few
usher
days.
me out. I swear to God, I was in his place the other day, and I swear to God it was Molly Meldrum that was in there. That guy looked
Yeah, my mate Shanker. Yeah,
splitting image of Molly Meldrum.
he is
He actually probably looked about 10
absolutely
years younger. He looked in better shape than maybe Molly Meldrum, but ripping guy as well.
Yeah, he's a great fella.
We got
Great fella,
chit-chatting
Shanker.
for ages, and probably gave away any profit for the day. So, all right, let's jump into Division 2 very quickly. So Northcote Park versus South Morang. This is Northcote Park's down the bottom, but they have kicked more goals in the last quarter than anybody else this season. And South Morang, I think, have dropped a third on the ladder.
South Morang.
South Morang by 45.
By 18.
Oh, by 18. Sue, Bonners,
Didn't actually listen to who they're playing. I wasn't listening to it.
Northcote Park.
I said South Marine by about 70.
70. All right. Now, I'm going to go crazy here. Northcote Park, for me, are due. Okay, so I'm going to say Northcote Park by a point. I'm going to get bombarded online for this one and say, you don't like South
They don't
Morang.
expect you to be intelligent.
How can you be due for a win?
No,
Yeah,
no,
seriously.
They have lost their last 3 games, like, in the last couple of minutes.
Oh, that
of
means
the
they're due because
So if you had seen me play football, you would understand what due is all about. I was due to get a kick. Lorimer versus St Mary's. This is a bit of St Mary's are right up there, second on the ladder, I think. And Lorimer are second last.
I'm going the underdogs.
Lorimer, Jimmy Atkins was made right there.
St Mary's by 65.
Oh,
65. Goopus.
Yeah, sorry.
And what do you think?
St Mary's by about 50.
50. Righto. Well, I love Jimmy. I reckon Jimmy's due for a win. And I'm going Jimmy by a point. Jimmy's Lorimer.
He's a kiss of death, by the way. So anyone he picks is guaranteed to
Hey,
win.
mate, you're not kissing me. I'm like, just stay
Thomastown, Panton Hill. It's at Thomastown. Pretty
Home
evenly
game.
matched sides.
Home game
Home game,
advantage. I say Thomastown
Thomastown. Yep.
So
by 15.
15. What do you got, Sean?
I reckon, 7.
7. Bonners.
Yeah, I reckon Tomo by about 4 goals.
Tomo by jeepers.
How good is the English language, Tomo?
And I'm going to
I grew
go.
up there, so I can't use the full word.
I'm going to stay with you. I'm going to go Thomastown by 18. Whittlesea, Diamond Creek. This is top of the table
Yeah,
clash,
it's a
both
cracker.
undefeated. Played at Whittlesea, which is pretty much the size of the MCG, I
Yeah.
reckon, that ground.
Diamond Creek by 11.
Oh, that was quick.
Ooh, well,
Diamond Creek by 11.
Yeah,
Conference
I'm
Sue,
going to go Diamond Creek as well by 20.
Shaun 20. Bonners,
I'm not going against our Xavier boy after the weekend. We'll go Whittlesea by 14.
Whittlesea by 14 by Bonners. All right, here's my statement piece.
Oh, God.
I think Diamond Creek get up after the siren by a point. You know, I haven't got a right tip this year. So this will surprise
That's a kiss of death, at the end of it.
This
Where
was
you do it every
surprising.
year online.
Absolutely. Peter Westbury's not happy from South Moran. Can you share what you're on? Shut up, Pete. Pay our people the money you owe them. For he pays for our tips. He's our sponsor for the footy tips. Lower Plenty, Watsonia. He did pay his tip, by the way.
That's good.
Lower Plenty, Watsonia. This is
We're
about
at
an
Lower?
even game. At Lower Plenty. This is easy, middle of the table.
Lower.
Yeah, I'll go
Lower.
the home team.
Yeah, home
Go
team
the
as
home
well.
team.
Can't get
Low
wrong.
Plenty by 10.
10 for Shaun.
21.
Sue, 21 for Sue. Bonners,
15.
15. Are you staying with Lower?
I am. Lower at Lower's been very impressive this year.
I know, but I think Watson, you get the chocolates here. 23 points. Watsy.
I think you talked
Right, who's
someone.
coached me at footy?
Yeah,
Who's
exactly.
played
That's
against-
exactly
Whose
right.
kids are playing? Who I've coached and are
Who's
there?
paying you?
Yeah, who pay me? I am a cash for comments guy. I want to make no mistake about that. If you got cash, I am your man. All right, now before we finish off with Division 1, we've got about 10, 15 minutes in the show. For me, who's never had a concussion and learnt so much about it recently through meeting you, Shaun, and listening to you, Sue. Personally, I think there's a lot that can be done, and I want to make it like we have the "Are you okay?" symbol up here. I'm going to regularly put something up about concussion on our Facebook page for the rest of this season, once a week, whether it be a little snippet, whether it be a link, because if you're watching this at home or watching it on replay, what I say to you is it's extremely serious. It'll affect the way you may be able to raise your children, hold your children, integrate with family, friends, and everything later in life. In my very few short conversations with you, Shaun, I've learnt the effects are bad. It's one of those situations of it is okay to not be okay type scenario. If you're not right, you don't feel spot on, don't do it. To coaches, to trainers, to staff that help diagnose this, do some research on it. And
that's what I was trying to say to you before. I would love to see a module that all coaches or trainers you can get online. 2.5 hours, you do your questions, you get your certificate, diagnoses it. You're not going to be the person that does the rehab, but what you are going to see is symptoms that some other people wouldn't look at. Like some of the symptoms are so vague that you'd sit there and if you did the course, you'd be like, hang on a second, I can see these type of things. So for everyone to do a 2.5 hour module every time, every person involved, I think would be a massive step in the right direction. Get your certificate so that people know that you've actually done it. And then you start to protect the kids as they come through and you actually direct them in the right direction.
I think it's where you're going to start is very young with the kids. And let them know if you get a concussion, you're going to be out for this amount of weeks. I know it really hurts the child and sometimes hurts the parents because I think a lot of parents live there, maybe their failed footy career through their children, which is,
We've had a chat to him.
But, and it is, oh, my son's got to play because he's the best player and all this sort of thing. It's you got to look past the game and look at the safety. All you have to do is help guys now and the damage that it's done. As I said, I've seen it firsthand. Quite a lot of friends I've known since I was 17, played against. They're completely different people, and we're actually worried for their safety. So it is a real thing.
I know we're talking, your code that you're talking about is AFL now, but if you look at the other sports or other industries out there, you look at the equine industry, they have double the amount of concussions
Is that right?
than AFL football is.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh,
and
of course.
we always talk about knocks and everything, but even when you go into the locker room, when there's backwards and forwards, you're doing the damage. So
Yeah.
it's not just sometimes when you're on the field.
Mm.
In the equine, it's a lot of it are in the stables when the horses knock them into
Yeah.
onto the thing. So there's so many other ways that you can get concussed, whether it's a ball that hits you with a
Yep.
tennis ball or a golf
Whiplash,
ball,
whiplash type
or
stuff.
you knock your head and you go,
Yeah.
oh, that didn't hurt, and it like really, really hurt. But if you any knock to the brain or to the head
Yep.
should be really seriously looked at,
Absolutely.
What
no
do
matter
they
what
do
sport.
when you start your professional career? In the horse racing industry, is it measurable? Of course, we speak about footy. We're in the footy game, but
I think it's
I-
just such an unknown
I-
area. I
that I
just think
can't
we're all
answer.
it's in
learning.
its infancy,
Yeah,
isn't it?
it is.
When you look at another game, and I guess look at soccer, and how many times bloke headed the ball.
Yeah.
Smacking each other.
That
in the
always
head.
dumbfounds me. Is how many there would be millions of times that heads hits the ball, and a wet footy.
Yeah.
I know the footies are a lot lighter than years ago when they used to be like a brick when they were
Yeah.
wet. So yeah, it's just as Sue said, we just need that baseline.
Yeah.
So if you're starting to feel not right, you go, well, I just need a
That's the
test. I just
sign.
need a test, and yeah, geez, I'm struggling on the test, so there's something wrong with me.
It's so young here in Australia that overseas other industries have been doing it for a lot longer,
Mm.
and I think we should be collaboratively working with them
Yeah, I agree.
and others because we're not reinventing the wheel, are we?
Well, look at Brett Jarros, who I did the eye testing with, and he made a massive difference for me. In Australia, he's really sort of not
Recognised.
recognised
Yeah.
because
Really?
he's a chiropractor, but
Okay.
overseas, he's like
He's huge, yeah.
Yeah.
like a god to a lot of athletes. He looks after surfers, Owen and Taylor Wright, and
Wow.
they've had he's got Paddy McCartan back playing, but obviously he's no good now. He's had one too many. So he really knows what he's doing, but we don't seem to recognise these people because it's a bit left of centre of
Bonner's made
what normal is.
Bonner's made the comment earlier before you both got here that unfortunately it's your generation, the injuries you've sustained is what's going to set the path forward. There's no that I know that's not great for you, but if you can save a life along the way, if you can save
Educate.
someone having these long-term effects.
Well, that's
how
one of the
good is
reasons why I've sort of
Yeah.
been very vocal in the last 5-6 years or so,
Yeah.
even longer than that, just because I don't want anyone to go through what I've gone through and guys that I know what they're currently going
Yep.
through. And if it can be a little tiny 1 or 2% difference there can make a massive difference down the track.
Did you ever go back after a concussion quickly, mate?
Mate, I went back 2 weeks later. And
Really?
this is what I sit here today and we talk about, I think the big discussion we both had for a while is everyone recovers differently.
Yeah.
I'm baffled to this day that I don't have more migraines, headaches or anything like that. I got knocked out in a game. I ended up in hospital, got checked. I was petrified I was going to forget everything. And then felt good by the end of the week. So the following week, I'm like, oh, I felt okay. This is 20 years. This is only 20 years ago. This isn't. This is 22 years ago or something. This is not 50, 40 years ago. This is. I felt okay, and I went back and played. And it's not, it wasn't bravado. It was just that I had the belief that I was okay.
Yeah.
But then once footy finished that year, I had sleeping difficulties and that for about 4 or 5 weeks after the actual end of the season. So
Really?
that's what the delayed concussion is. I didn't feel it at the time, but as soon as the adrenaline comes down, you're out of the thing, you're actually having a rest, as we spoke, like Shaun said before, was just getting the headaches. I was struggling to sleep. Your concentration really did. I had exams for uni and you don't notice it till then. So I look back at myself and probably slap myself across the head if I did it again, because it was something that everyone did. There was no baseline. There was no, you didn't go to the doctors. You just said, oh, you're feeling all right? Yeah, no, I felt all right. Trained okay. But you're only doing light training. So for me, it was a big eye-opener for me now of what I did 20, 30 years ago.
But we learn the hard way, don't we?
But we do.
I still don't reckon we've learned enough.
No.
Only 2 years ago, Port Adelaide,
Oh, yeah.
Ilir and
Yes.
and what's that? Wilson? Was it?
Yeah.
What's, I can't remember his name.
Yeah.
Clashed heads and they were clearly knocked out. They hit the ground motionless, and Galea came back on the ground
was a
5
scary
minutes
moment,
later,
yeah.
and Jones, it was young Jones, he was subbed out of the game because of a migraine.
Mm.
So he could play the next week because if you
Yeah.
get subbed out concussion, you got to miss a week. You go into the protocols, so you go in the 14 days, and that just baffles me.
How do we get this message to 20-year-olds that are playing their first, second, third, fourth year of
Correct.
footy? You know, they just don't want to give up their spot. I wouldn't have. You
And
know,
Port Adelaide got fined $100,000 because of it.
Mm.
Now, Koshy's probably going to get his checkbook out and
Yeah.
just pay that, right? And money's, is not the answer. If they took 4 points off them,
Mm.
that's stuff you can't buy.
Yeah.
And it might make him miss the finals.
having a baseline test would have been good to measure him.
100%.
But is it more prominent? Like you've obviously played in an era which are a little bit more mature than the kids playing today. Like back in the older days, it didn't seem as prevalent. Like I don't know whether it was the style of the game. Has it changed? Because the young kids of today, everyone's just like concussions. Like it is probably the education, but
Yeah.
you just hope that they're
Faster
not going
game
for
now too,
the cash and grab.
Yeah.
Or is it serious? Or why is there more of the younger kids getting the concussion now of today's football? Is it because of the speed or?
I think so.
I've got to admit, the game is a lot faster. And when you see the guys on TV, you think, oh, they're the same. So Cripps from Carlton, he's 6'3".
Yeah.
My God, and he plays on ball.
Yeah.
He's a monster of a guy, and they do hit hard. So when they do hit, and
But the boys were bigger back in the older days, and
Just not as fast.
not as
fast.
Yeah, not as
Spoke about
fast.
David Roach Jones before, so how many concussions must have Reece had? All right, two more things. A quick message there from Katie. Such an important message. Thanks, Shaun and Sue. Say that 10 times for sharing your experiences and wisdom. It is an extremely important message. Now, Division 1. My boys had a big win on the weekend. Your former boys, Bundura, had a big win on the weekend, their first of the season. But we'll start with Greensborough versus Hurstbridge. This is, I think, third and fourth on the ladder.
It is indeed.
Second and third on the ladder. All right, Sue, kick me off.
Hurstbridge by 14.
Hurstbridge by 14. That's quick. She's getting quicker with this. Let's.
I've got no idea.
You're going to have the most
Who
accurate.
are they playing?
Greensborough versus Hurstbridge.
I'll go Greensborough.
Greensborough.
Actually, I'll go draw.
Draw.
Oh,
I like it.
Yeah.
I'm out of my heart. Discount on timber next week. What do you got for me?
I'll go on Maddie's team, mate. I think
Go
they'll win by
Greensy.
that, 14.
Greensy by 14 for Bonners, and I'll go by 18. I reckon they get it done by 3 goals. Now, Bundura versus Banyul. Now, maybe third last on the ladder, Bundura, Heath Scotland side. It was good to watch them have a win on the weekend. And but Banyul second on the ladder in very good nick. 2 very experienced coaches there in Paul Harris, who we had on last week, and Ricky Dyson. What do you got for me?
Bangers by 33.
Bangers by 33.
I like it.
Same by
Shaun.
Same by 45.
45.
Yeah,
Sorry, Heath.
I think it's going to be a blowout. I think it'll be 10 goals.
10 goals. I don't think Bundura will win by that much. So
I
he's got
no idea.
Daniel by 60 points.
I've got no idea with the AFL.
But say welcome to the club.
Shock of the week. I believe in Heath and the boys. Few coming back. Bundura get up by a point.
You always think it's a Daniel Bundura show, mate. You're not making it any easier.
I get a bit of grief. McLeod versus Montmorency. This is bottom of the ladder versus third on the ladder, third or
No,
fourth.
Monty are 5th now. I think they've lost a couple.
Monty by 27.
Monty by
Monty are
27.
due for a win because they've had a couple
I love it. You come over. This is good. So Monty got a Sue. I love due for a win.
I know.
24.
24, awesome. And I'm probably going to say Monty by 73. This is going to be an absolute smashing.
I'm equal with Sue.
All right, so Bonners there as well, same score. Eltham versus North Heidelberg. Eltham's probably bottom of the ladder or second last, and North Heidelberg's up there. You got Jason Heatley's boy. I think his son Parker kicked 10 on the weekend. Parker Heatley's a star.
North Heidelberg by 30.
30 for North Heidelberg.
You've been around that whole game. Like, there's
Same
5
again.
goals. You're
Same
like,
again.
Same
by
again.
10 goals.
Sean's given it by 10 goals, 60 points to North Heidelberg.
North by about 15.
North by 15.
I actually like what Bongo's doing. So
Yeah, I don't know. I played a year and got 2 touches at North Heidelberg, so I'll go North Heidelberg by
you can't pick training, mate. You got to do it.
26. No, I didn't turn. I was a professional trainer. Last one, West Heidelberg. West Preston Lakeside versus Heidelberg. Heidelberg are undefeated in the last 47
Oh,
years.
they're due for a loss.
They're due for a loss. Well, where you going here, Sue? This is amazing. All right, so give it to me then.
Go on.
West Preston Lakeside versus the
Where are West
undefeated
Preston?
Heidelberg. They got beaten by Bundoora on the weekend pretty badly. So
So they're second
they're
last.
second last.
Oh,
Heidelberg.
okay.
Heidelberg are undefeated.
Heidelberg by 52.
Heidelberg by 52 for
Heidelberg
Sue.
by 67.
Yeah.
67.
It depends on team. Remember last week, if they can hit their forward line, I reckon they could win this by 100.
All right, we're going to go 100.
I actually think they can
Jeez.
definitely, if they start
They're
to,
way out there.
they've always said that their one part is the kick into the forward line. If they can get that right, this could be a massive blowout.
Well, I'm going to go Heidelberg by 91. I think Heidelberg will continue to go undefeated for the whole season and win the flag. They have
I
way
think they'll
too
lose
many
one.
stars. You'll get killed for that. All right. Now, in summary tonight, the one message we're trying to get across is if you've got concussion, guys, take your time. If you watch your son, daughter, friend, brother, sister get concussion, get them to get checked out properly and take your time. I think if there was a message slogan I was putting out for concussion, it would be take your time.
Yeah.
Because it's so serious. If you injure your brain, as Shaun said to me, we do nothing for it in the way of icing it or doing anything right there. So take your time, get some advice. If you've got headaches, I agree, you shouldn't return for at least 14 to 21 days after that, but get professional advice. I'm not a professional.
No,
I'm actually not a professional at anything, I don't think. But Sue, thank you so much for bringing in the
Yeah,
iBox
and
tonight.
showing us
We've
how
got a
it
heap
works.
of pictures
Yeah,
of it. We'll get it out there. Shaun, thank you so much for coming in and speaking about your
That's right.
experiences and sharing
Thanks,
it because it will make a difference. And Matt, thanks for coming on and really contributing nothing to the show as usual.
You know, I have to say though, this is the first time I've been on this show, and I'm not the smartest person here, and it really hurts because I've been with you for 8 months, and every week I'm the smartest person. So it was a little bit of a back turn for me.
You see what I have to put up with every week? This is why you don't go live with your show. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for that. Until next week, keep kicking.